So again, thanks everyone for joining. We're super excited for this. It's definitely been a long journey to get to 1.0 from a very simple WireGuard based management platform all the way up to a fully fledged zero trust virtual networking platform. So to those of you who are new to the project, we're looking forward to telling you a bit about it. To those of you who've been with us for, months or years even, we're excited to have you along on this journey. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to walk through a few things here. We're going to give a quick about us, about the project, about ourselves. We're going to go through a bit about how Netmaker has evolved over the years. Then we're going to talk a little bit about what makes Netmaker different from the other platforms out there. Then we're going to go through a couple of use cases. Actually, I think we've got a couple people on the call from those companies, and we're going to highlight your use cases there. So should be excited for that. Then we're going to give you an overview of the platform, and I'm going to hand it over to Abhishek for that, and he's going to actually show you a bit live the platform and how we've implemented zero trust principles with it. Then Abhishek's going to give you a bit about the roadmap, what's coming next for Netmaker, and we're going to wrap it up with a Q&A. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. And if they pop up during the course of the conversation, definitely ask those as well. We'll try to keep a lookout in the chat. And again, there is a little bit of a delay, so we might not get your questions till the next slide, but we can always move back to them. Okay, with that, so as I mentioned, I'm Alex Feisley. I'm the CEO and founder of Netmaker. A bit about myself, I travel quite a bit. I've lived in actually a few different countries over the past few years. I'm an ex-engineer at IBM and Deloitte, and actually we've got Connor here. Connor used to be my boss over at Crossveil, where I worked with a lot of Red Hat tech. So mostly working on the infrastructure and DevOps side, but yeah, very exciting journey before starting Netmaker. Abhishek, do you want to give about yourself?
Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Abhishek. I'm the co-founder and CTO at Netmaker. I'm originally from India, but I'm based in Dubai, and I travel. I spend a few months in India, a few months in Dubai. Also, try to plan some vacation when possible. Yeah, I initially started my career with cloud native space, and then jumped on a Netmaker. Exciting project. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. So just to give you a quick bit of stats about the project. So we published in 2021, over 4 years ago now. And since then, we've put out 75 releases to get to 1.0. So it's definitely been a hugely active effort to get to this point, a lot of active development on it. And over that time, the project has grown quite a lot. So we're at over 10,000 stars on GitHub at this point. If you look on Docker Hub, the Netmaker server image has over 500,000 polls. We know of at least 50,000 active endpoints, though we're not tracking those, so it could be higher. And we get about 15,000 monthly visitors to our website. So it's been awesome having you guys with us as we grow, and it's been great seeing the expansion of this project to really all over the world. I think we've got deployments on every continent, maybe outside of Antarctica, but it's been pretty cool to see. And the project has evolved a ton with that. I won't go through, every detail of it, but again, we launched in 2021. That year, we did things like put out our native WireGuard clients, which a lot of people love, hole punching. We added Windows and Mac support. We added a very simple version of OAuth. Going into 2022, we added very simple DNS, ACLs, basic client GUI, and that was also the year that we got into Y Combinator, which was super exciting and helped us to expand the project even more. In 2023, the big changes were switching over to the Apache 2.0 license on the community project, really fully open sourcing it, as well as launching our SaaS platform. Then in 2024, we added in mobile apps, we added role-based access controls. We completely overhauled how our ACLs function to get them more in line with zero trust, and also completely revamped our UI, giving it an entirely different look and feel. Then going into 2025, we implemented more of those zero trust principles on the ACLs. We added IDP integration and syncing, so you could sync your directories and groups from your IDP. We also started letting you edit your server settings directly in the UI and implemented audit logs. And that brought us up to 1.0. So, with that, why are we calling it 1.0 now? And actually, this is something we've basically asked ourselves every month for years now. Is this the 1.0 release? Is this the 1.0? When are we going to cut 1.0? Because 4 years is a very long time to do that. And really, what it came down to, for the most part, was it never had all of the things we wanted in the platform. There was always more we wanted to add. So the first thing is we now view Netmaker as largely feature complete. And that doesn't mean we're not going to keep adding things to it. We definitely are, and you're going to learn more about that in the roadmap. But we believe Netmaker now has parity with a lot of the other major virtual networking platforms out there. So we feel comfortable with the amount of features in it to call it 1.0. The next is moving over to a zero trust framework. So previously we would have called Netmaker just a VPN, and there's a lot of VPNs out there, but we wanted to get it more into that zero trust space and implement those principles that would allow us to call it zero trust. And then the last is just general platform stability. We've invested a lot into QA, making sure that upgrades go seamlessly, making sure we minimize the number of bugs in the platform, and we're now very comfortable where it is in terms of platform stability. So that really is what came into our decision to call it 1.0. So since this is talking about 1.0, I just want to highlight the changes here that are in this version. So again, there's that IDP sync, so allowing you to sync your users and groups directly from your IDP into the platform. There is modifying system-wide settings directly from the UI, which is a super awesome enhancement where previously it was an environment file you had to run actually on the server side with the command line. Audit logs were really, really great enhancement, seeing who logs into and out of the platform, who's made any changes to the platform. And then the last is MFA. So while we already had MFA, if you integrated OAuth, now we have MFA even with basic auth. So even if you're creating your own users, you can have MFA on it, and that brings us more in line with zero trust. So I want to talk a little bit about what makes Netmaker different from some of the other platforms out there. And it boils down to four things, which is ownership, flexibility, automation, and speed. There's definitely a lot of options out there in the virtual networking space, and we believe these are what largely differentiates us from those other options. So on the ownership side, we allow you to deploy on-prem, which gives you complete control of your data plane and your control plane, which is really fantastic for data privacy reasons. And beyond that, even if you're using our SaaS, we completely segment those environments. So you're getting your own server, your own database, and we also deploy dedicated routing endpoints that you can use that belong just to you. So on our on-prem version, you don't have to worry about data passing through third-party servers. And in the SaaS, even then, you're getting dedicated ownership. On the flexibility side, we believe we have one of the most flexible systems out there, including being able to deploy clients and integrate them into your network in 3 different ways. So we've got the Net client, which is a background agent that gets live updates from the platform, completely peer-to-peer. We've got the desktop and mobile apps, which are meant for user access, integrates with OAuth with a nice user interface. And we've also got the native WireGuard integration, so you can generate WireGuard config files and customize those and put them on basically any device that supports WireGuard. Along with that, we support multiple topologies, including peer-to-peer, hub and spoke networks, site-to-site. So really, you can mix and match those and design your network and your traffic flow exactly the way you want. And last beyond that is just the ability to create multiple networks inside of Netmaker, giving you a form of multi-tenancy and an ability to just handle multiple use cases in different networks. On the automation side, we've made it very easy to install the server with a one-line installation, as well as the client. And also the entire platform is fully automatable over API. So anything you can do in the UI, you can do over API and also with our companion CLI tool, which a lot of our users have used to integrate with their own platforms. So they don't even have to log into Netmaker to update their networks the way they want. And then the last is if you are using the UI, there's just an extremely low level of adjustments you're able to make far beyond what a lot of other platforms offer, where you're able to change exactly what ports clients are using to communicate, what MTU settings they have, whether endpoints update statically or dynamically. It's just very low level and allows you to design your networks exactly the way you want. And the last is just speed. So by default, you get peer-to-peer connections, which are going to be faster. We support kernel WireGuard, which is really the fastest encryption protocol you're going to get. And then the last is we allow you to deploy relays that could be co-located with where your devices are. So as opposed to some other platforms where if peer-to-peer traffic isn't working, it might route through an endpoint like all the way across the country or further. With ours, you can deploy a relay, in your data center right outside it and get a faster speed. So this goes into a bit about the use cases, which kind of falls into that network topology thing, but just to highlight those, there's remote access, there's creating network overlays, and site to site. So remote access is pretty standard, but you can set up networks for either employees or IT staff to reach remote environments. So for IT staff, it might be, for instance, managing devices at the edge. It might be managing customer environments. For employee access, maybe accessing internal tools at the office or even routing traffic out to the internet. For network overlays, you might be connecting your edge devices into cloud services. You might be connecting different clouds together or data centers or VPCs. And then on top of that, you can add in remote access, so treating that as the remote environment for your users to reach. And then last is site to site, where you don't have to deploy the endpoints on all of your devices. You can directly connect sites to each other, like offices or VPCs. And along with that, use our WireGuard config files to integrate routers into your network to help facilitate that. So I wanted to highlight two use cases. And again, I think we've got the users on here from those use cases. But the first is Creative Technologies. So they provide remote AV services for a lot of live events all over the world. In fact, I think they've done Eurovision a few times in a row now. And they were looking for something to help them support managing these remote services as well as integrations with their cloud sites on AWS. They used to waste a lot of time managing this infrastructure, and it was very chaotic due to the use of various different tools and just a lot of different environments. So when they integrated Netmaker, they were able to connect all these environments together into a fabric. It gave them one central access tool and connectivity to all those remote sites. And the big value add there was it allowed them to stay remote on projects where currently they might have need to go on site, and it saved them a ton of time on doing these remote projects. With Alabrum, and I think we've got Rafifat on here as well. So hi. They deploy HR solutions for a number of clients all over the globe, and their finance team had a problem with data in Azure. So their finance team needed to access this data both in VMs and via data sources, and it was very slow. It was very unreliable and pretty expensive because they were using the Azure VPN. So they switched to Netmaker. The connections were a lot faster, the stability was better, and it saved them money too. And that's allowed them to save not just money, but also a lot of time from their finance team, who has loved how easy it's made it to access the data they need. And the IT staff has loved it because they get a ton of flexibility in how they deploy the platform and that they're able to have complete control of their data. And we have a few other case studies at netmaker.io/case studies. So if you want to check that out, go ahead. So I'm going to hand it over to Abhishek in just a minute here, but I just want to highlight very briefly the major components that make up the Netmaker platform. So it starts at networks. You're able to create multiple overlay networks in which you put your devices. Then it's nodes, which are your devices inside of those networks, which again could be with the net client, our desktop app for users, or just native WireGuard config files. Then there's gateways, which allow you to route traffic into and across your network and also the internet. So you set nodes as gateways to help you route the traffic inter-network. There's also egress, which allows you to route traffic to local sites and devices. So for instance, to the office or to the cloud, you deploy one device and then route the traffic locally. There's DNS, which either use our built-in DNS mechanism on the platform, or you could route DNS queries to your own internal DNS servers. There's user management, so the ability to invite users, manage their access levels, set up groups, sync with your IDP, use your OAuth, have 2FA. There's ACLs, and this is what allows you to deploy rules about exactly which devices and which users can talk to what, in what direction traffic is able to flow, which ports are accessible, and which IPs are accessible. And then the last is our auditing and metrics. So you can view exactly which devices are connected, how much traffic is going through those devices, as well as viewing when people log onto and off of the platform, and which changes were made at any time on the platform. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Abhishek. So Abhishek is going to take you on a walkthrough, and yeah, let's go from there.
Hey guys. Thanks for the intro, Alex, and explaining all the features. So I'm going to start with just explaining what is zero trust and what are the basic principles. I'm sure this has been buzzing for a while now, the word zero trust. It's more of a security model or a framework, you can call it, than a feature. And it encompasses certain principles that you need to follow to have a rigid and secure network perimeter. So what is zero trust? It's basically a simple, based on simple principle, always, never trust, always verify, right? I would probably explain this with an example, a real life analogy. Think of a modern security building, which has access score and where each employee needs to have a access badge to enter a different floor or different departments, right? Rather than just having a single access badge. So this basically ensures each employee entering the office has only access to a certain perimeter in the building, having to move freely around. So what are the core principles of zero trust? One is your identity and access management. basically, these are the core feature set of Zero Trust. Basically, identity and access management. This ensures that before an user can access any resource on the network, he has to verify his identity. And next one is zero device trust. Any device that is added to the network has to follow certain posted checks or fall into certain criteria. Then only it can access or communicate with the other device on the network. Other one is network segmentation. Rather than having a big network, Zero Trust ensures that you need to have segmented network within which you have certain group of devices or users playing their part in the network, and having a robust access controls, which defines who can access what on the network. And come to the last one is the logging and visibility. Basically tells you when, where, and who. Gives you overview of the network, and basically you get to audit the whole network and what has happened over a period of time. So I guess next I would share my screen and map all these zero trust principles onto Netmaker, how it has been implemented as of today. Let me go ahead and share my screen. 1 second. Sure. Yeah, I guess everything's on the screen now. So starting with identity and access management, as of today on Netmaker, we have advanced user management. Uh, it can integrate with any ORIC compliant SSO provider, be it Google Workspace or Microsoft or Okta, or even if you're self-hosting any of the identity provider like Keycloak or Citadel, you can pretty much integrate any of them into the platform. And additionally, as Alex explained previously, we did integrate, we did bring in IDP sync feature, which basically syncs your users and groups from your workspace into the platform directly. So this ensures ease of onboarding and offboarding of users. So any employee, say joining your organization or leaving your organization, is in sync with the network, and say any user leaves the organization, it would basically lose the access to the network immediately. And coming to the network segmentation part, I would say one of the unique features on Netmaker compared to other players in the market, we let you to create multiple overlay networks. This helps you to manage either multiple customer sites uh, or even multiple sites within the company as well. This ensures micro segmentation between the sites and between the networks for added trust. And going forward, I'd like to explain how access controls are enforced currently. So this is a new access control policy engine. And if I've been with Netmaker for a while, you have seen the whole access controls, and it was pretty hard to manage in a large scale network. So here we have an advanced access control management with ability to tag devices and apply policies over them. And not just simple policies, you can also control what protocol they can access over the network, also which port they can access over the network. And coming to device trust, how is it managed currently on Netmaker? Right now, the way you would add devices or nodes into the network is through enrollment keys. So this you could define either limited number of users or a time-bound key through which a device add into the network. And also you can add tags on the key. So when a particular node is joined into the network, the policies applied on the tag would automatically be enforced on the node. And going into the analytics screen, this is where we are enhancing our visibility and total activity in the network. So we see a metrics page. You get to see all the connectivity status and the latency and the bytes sent and received. We also have a Prometheus exporter, which you could export to your own environment or set up alerts over there based on the metrics. And we recently added the activity logs. So this basically gives you overview of all the user activities on the dashboard and the network, and you would get to audit over time what's happening in the network. And with the 1.0, we have added one cool feature. I think one of you would like it. Now we have a map view where you get to see all the endpoints and the regions they're located in. And you could also control them via the map itself. You can disconnect or sync. Going forward, this will be enhanced more to give you a bigger overview of entire network via the graph. Yeah, I guess next I would go to the roadmap and give give a sense of what we are doing for the rest of the year and what's coming. Starting with what Q3, we have planned TCP proxy. So this basically ensures in corporate setting or where there are strict firewalls in place where they would only allow TLS or TCP traffic. And since we Netmaker primarily uses WireGuard it's based on UDP. To make sure it works well seamlessly in those environments, we are putting a TCP proxy in front of it so that it seamlessly connects to the other nodes in the network. Now, other one is HA failover. If you're aware of what failover is on Netmaker, it basically acts as a NAT traversal server in the network. It facilitates if the two peers are behind a restricted NAT environment. It acts as a middleman and helps the connection to relay to the other node. So having HA failover would give you the additional control of having to deploy multiple region-based nodes, and the nodes would automatically choose the nearest failover and pass its traffic through that. And come to the next one, layer 7 policies. It's been one of the most requested feature lately. Rather than having to deal with IPs and ports, well, more and more people wants to just select the application and give access to users. This will be integrated across the platform, either on the egress page or also on the access control page as well. And we are and come to the next part. We're in the process of getting compliance. You can expect the ISO 27001 anytime 1 or 2 months, and SOC 2 would be like after 3 months. This would ensure there's when larger companies are accepting us as a vendor, it's more smoother experience, and it just adds the extra layer of trust having the compliance on our side. And to cover the whole zero trust picture, we'll be introducing posture checks and device approvals. So this ensures like if posture checks are basically a device has to have certain parameters and has to meet certain criteria, then and only it will be active on the network, be it its version or the region based or anything, right? If it doesn't meet certain criteria, it will be automatically disabled from the network. And coming to Q4, network activity, there's one of the exciting feature that will be coming up. So this, as I showed you before, we have activity logs on the dashboard. So what is network activity is, basically it will give you an overview of what users are doing on the network. Say user X is connecting to an application Y, right? It would basically give you a log saying this user has been using this particular application and has been active for this amount of time on the network. And also we'll be putting out Kubernetes operator, which would be a seamless integration into Kubernetes and apply access policies for users on the Kubernetes resources. And another one is CM integration. Obviously, the audit logs and the network activity we're collecting, some of the users wants to export it to their existing uh, CM tools, be it Splunk or any other tools like the Datadog, so they can get an end-to-end monitoring system. Coming to last part of it, this has been requested for a while now, having a Terraform provider for NetMaker for added automation in infra and DevOps space. And NetMaker SSH. This basically eliminates the use of config files and removes the hassle of controlling distributing config file for your SSH access. Rather, you would control this based on identity of an user and simply would control through the NetMaker control plane. And lastly, network alerts. Either if a node is going down or if a node is using a certain number of bandwidth, uh, or if there's a misbehaving user in the network, you would get alerts into your either email or other platforms going forward. But I think I did pretty much cover all of it, Alex. Want to take over from here?
Sure thing. Yeah. Well, really, that brings us to the major end of our presentation. We saved time for Q&A. I guess maybe just before we do the Q&A, I'll bring up just how to contact us if anyone is interested in that. So just, if you're interested in the project in general, it's github.com/gravital/netmaker. If you want to learn just a bit more about us in general, you can go to www.netmaker.io. If you'd like to book some time with us to discuss, you can go to calendly.com/netmaker. And then the emails for both of us are alex@netmaker.io and abhishek@netmaker.io. So definitely feel free to reach out with any questions you might have. And with that, yeah, I guess we'll jump into questions, see if anyone has anything they'd like to bring up. Yeah, actually, I guess Abhishek, are you able to view the chat and see if anything pops up there?
Yeah. Right now, there are no questions yet. Oh, yeah,
Okay.
HF failover would be definitely out. It's one of
Yeah,
the
the
most
HA
recent patches.
failover. We've gotten a few comments about before, and I think that'll be really nice. Um, yeah, there is a 30-second delay with the chat, so we'll see what happens there.
So we got a question from Connor. Uh, does NetMaker have a partner program where I can resell NetMaker?
Yeah. So we do actually, we work with a good number of IT service providers, managed service providers. So that's a pretty common use case for the platform. They're working with their own customers, setting up managed networks for them. Um, yeah, so definitely that's something we do, and we even have an outline of our partner program on the website. So if you're interested in that, definitely feel free to reach out. We're happy to chat about it.
And we got another question from Gene. What about scalability?
Yeah, maybe that's one you could take.
Yeah, sure. So Gene, yeah, we are working in the background. A lot of rework has been going on in the background to improve the scalability. Definitely, you would see a lot of improvements in coming months. And we got a question from Jimmy. Are you allowed to use the community version in businesses as well?
Oh yeah, there's definitely no uh, limitations on using the community server in your business use cases. I guess the only part there would be, I believe our UI is still on the SSPL license, so you could definitely use it for your business purposes. You just wouldn't be able to, resell the UI directly. But yeah, definitely we have tons of people who are integrating Netmaker with their own products and services, creating, for instance, desktop software that integrates with their cloud services. So they're bundling, the Net client deployed on site with their desktop software, and then that links back securely to cloud environments. So something we've seen quite a few times. Guess we'll give it another minute, see if anything pops up in the chat. And if not, we can
Yeah, sure.
plan on wrapping it up. But yeah, if nothing else does come up, we'll keep monitoring that. But we're just very excited that we got to have all of you on this call to learn a bit about the platform. Um, you know, anytime you want us to drop us a line, we're open to chatting. We love getting to interact with our users and learning about their use cases. There's been so many different use cases from industrial manufacturing to software applications to the mining space, uh, all sorts of things. So it's been really, really
Yep.
cool to see all the different things that NetMaker can be used for.
And we got a question from Michael. What about easy migration of profiles to new gateways? Well, I
Migrate.
can take that one out.
Yeah, go for it.
Michael, I mean, as of today, we don't have anything planned for that, but definitely it is something we would want to do for users.
Yeah, is he talking there about the WireGuard config files
Yeah,
themselves? Oh, yeah.
right.
Yep. There's definitely not a simple way to do that today, but I guess, the short answer to that would be if you could use it, use the desktop or mobile apps, because then it's very on demand. You can generate it on whichever gateway you want. Then when you log off, it gets deleted. So log into one gateway, log off, and then log into another one. Though, yeah, for the config files themselves, they can't easily be pushed over, which I mean is a little bit difficult as is anyway, because, since they're static, they do need to point to a specific endpoint on the client side. So there are some limitations around that.
And we got a question from Bastian. Are there any ambitions for something like a management app?
Can you repeat that?
Are there any ambitions for something like a management app?
A management app. May need a little bit more clarification on what's meant by that. Do you know what he means by that? A management app.
I'm not sure. Maybe Bastian, can you give us more insight into that? What do you mean by management app? And Gene has a question, your pricing model.
Right, the pricing model. So I guess while we maybe get an update on the management app thing. So yeah, you can view our pricing at netmaker.io/pricing. It is pretty straightforward for the SaaS version. For both the SaaS and the on-prem, it is usage based, where it gets reduced the more endpoints you have. I think something good about our pricing model that's different from some of the other platforms out there. So some of the other platforms, they do it based on user seats, and it can be pretty expensive going that way. We don't do it based on user seats. It's only based on active connections to the platform. So, for instance, with some of our competitors, you might be paying for however many users are on the platform each month, whereas we actually average out the number of connections that are online every day over the course of the month. So let's say your users are not online on weekends, or if, maybe only half of your users will be online, or if they're only using it occasionally, then you don't have to pay for that. You're only paying for live active connections, and that's the case both in the SaaS and on-prem. Though sometimes we do more static pricing for on-prem because some businesses, they need something fixed cost. So we do make adjustments based on that. But yeah, in general, it's based on average number of live connections, and it gets less expensive the more connections you have.
And James asks, which OEM is there in terms of remote sites connectivity?
Which, sorry, what in terms of remote sites and connectivity?
Which OEM?
Which OEM in terms of remote sites? And I'm not sure I understand that question.
Yes. And what is the price of self-hosted business version?
Yeah. So again, it's very similar to the SaaS model. So typically we just like to do a quick call to learn about your environment, but it's basically going to be pretty in line with what you see at netmaker.io/pricing for the cloud version. We do some additional discounts for like very large scale networks. But for the part, it's going to be pretty comparable to the SaaS pricing, which you can view on our website.
Yeah. And Connor says, I have a very large edge device project coming up. Need to chat with you guys about that.
Awesome. Definitely happy to chat with you about it.
Okay, we have Vinod Khanna. How is Netmaker handling connections where the edge nodes router won't allow UDP hole punching?
Yeah. Abhishek, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, uh, that's a tricky situation. If it's a behind NAT, unless you have static port mapping, it wouldn't work out of the box. But if you have port mapping, it will work. If even if the UDP hole punching is disabled.
But
Does
I
that
think it's
answer your
also
question?
worth noting the failover and relay capabilities.
Right. Yeah, we also have, either can use the failover feature, which automatically fixes the connection, or our relay feature, which is basically a gateway. You can choose a particular gateway and make sure the traffic goes through that.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's worth noting, even on most other platforms, in super restrictive CGNAT environments, you're not going to get a direct peer-to-peer connection. Um, and on the other platforms, typically they make it a bit more invisible, where it just starts routing, through one of their relays, which could be hosted wherever. We give you a bit more manual control over that, where you can say, okay, if peer-to-peer isn't working, let's automatically route it through this failover device. Or you could say, all right, these devices are in a CGNAT environment. I'm going to relay those always through this other peer. So pretty configurable, but yeah, it's the same mechanism you'd see on most other platforms in terms of getting around restrictive CGNAT.
And Michael has a question. When can SaaS users expect to go on 1.0? Michael, probably it would take anywhere between 1 to 2 weeks for a full rollout. Yeah.
Yeah, we like to delay a little bit between the release on GitHub and getting onto SaaS, 'cause there are a few differences and just making sure everything goes smoothly before those upgrades.
And Vinod Khanna says, yes, we wanted to see how we can easily add the relay services to complement. Yeah,
Easily.
so it's
Oh, go ahead.
yeah, so it's pretty flexible on NetMaker. You can define relays on any location as you wish and set them as gateways.
Yeah.
So basically, you can choose a location to reduce the least latency. That's by your choice. So.
Yeah, so basically you're going to deploy our net client agent on any server. It does need to be Linux, but yeah, it could be a server, a VM, or whatever. Um, and then you set which devices it's relaying. So you could have any number of net clients running wherever you want that you can use as relays for any number of on-prem devices.
Hey, hi Joel. We have a question from Joel. Can a client choose to switch between full tunnel and a split tunnel, or is that only managed from a management interface? Joel, as of today, it is you have to choose it from the management interface. Yeah, on the client side, yeah, you don't right now. You cannot choose to use an exit node or a full tunnel.
Though, I mean, I guess in that sense, you can set it up to have a gateway that acts as full tunnel and a gateway that acts as split tunnel, and then choose which one you're connecting to, right?
Oh, that is true for an end user if you're using the sub app. Yeah, you
Yeah.
can choose different gateways.
Yeah, and that's pretty common with what we see. So you could set up one gateway that's you could call it internet access and another gateway call it office access. And then when the user logs in, you're going to get a toggle switch for both of those and choose which one you want to use. All right. Are we getting anything else in the chat or
I think we covered all the questions up until now.
awesome? Well, that was definitely a good session there. I'm glad we got a good number of questions and I hope we answered everything there. Um, yeah, if you have any other questions, again, we've got our contact information here, so feel free to reach out about it. But I hope we covered everything you guys want to see. And yeah, again, if not, just let us know. And I guess with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up the stream. It was awesome having you guys all here and interacting. So thank you so much for joining. Really appreciate it. And looking forward to having you guys along for this journey as we go past 1.0 and beyond.